The Biden administration, everybody, has announced its new plan to help people across the country. Congress's new plan is to provide Americans with new stimulus checks. In the next round of stimulus payments are going to provide additional relief from rising gas prices and inflation. So you want to continue watching this video to find out the most important stimulus check information about the fourth stimulus bill. Now, according to new data, gas prices have slowly fallen since March, when just a gallon topped $4.33 on average nationally. But gas experts have announced that they are starting to creep up again, and it could be a while before people start to see prices come down. Between Monday and Friday, the national average for a gallon of regular gasoline increased by nearly 4 cents to $4.16. Now, demand for gas typically is elevated in the summer as more people are taking road trips, and that tends to put upward pressure on gas prices. The same is likely to go into play out this summer, but the world crisis could actually cause prices for gas to go higher. As for how the prices could go, one expert told Yahoo News, it's basically impossible to get a good gauge on where we'll be this summer because of the wide range of possibilities. Now, lawmakers are also worried about the rising gas prices, and Ro Khanna said this week that he is very concerned about this. According to a new survey, nearly 70% of U.S. adults are changing their summer travel plans because of inflation, and that includes higher gas prices overall. Overall, consumers in the country are paying 8.5% more for goods and services compared with last year. The 18.3% increase in prices for gasoline Americans experienced in March accounted for most of the increase in last month's overall consumer price index, which rose by 1 to 2%. From February, progressives and environmentalists pointed to huge first quarter profits posted by major oil companies to argue in favor of a windfall profits tax on oil companies amid the ongoing energy crunch. Critics of the oil companies call the reports evidence of gouging by the fossil fuel industry at a time when consumers have seen gas prices skyrocket. Environmental groups have also called for taxes on oil companies' windfall profits to be passed on to consumers. Several Democratic-led proposals, one of which Representative Whitehouse co-sponsored with Representative Khanna, would in effect send gas stimulus checks to lower-income Americans. They titled the Big Oil Windfall Profits Tax legislation. In the Democratic representative's proposal, that money would come from levying a per-barrel tax on major oil companies, equal to 50% of the difference between the current price of a barrel of oil and the pre-crisis average price per barrel between 2015 and 2019. Representative Khanna told reporters this week at $120 per barrel of oil, the levy would raise approximately $45 billion per year. At that price, single filers would receive approximately $240 each year, and joint filers would receive roughly $360 each year if they avoid a tax. That's less relief to the American public, but that means their price will come down. Now, the Biden administration has just announced that it will begin a $3.1 billion plan to boost domestic manufacturing of batteries. This is in a broader effort to shift the country away from gas-powered cars to electric vehicles. Folks, that might be a good plan. The electrification of the transportation sector will be critical to mitigating human-caused climate change. The transportation sector is one of the largest contributors to U.S. greenhouse emissions, which is currently representing roughly a third of emissions each year. The funding will support grants aimed at building, retooling, or expanding manufacturing of batteries and battery components, as well as establishing battery recycling facilities. According to the Department of Energy, the grants will be funded through January to President Biden's $1 trillion infrastructure law. This includes more than $7 billion to bolster the country's battery supply chain. The move comes after the president in April invoked the Defense Production Act to encourage domestic production of minerals that are required to make batteries for electric vehicles and long-term energy storage.
Not just producing more food, but how to help the environment at the same time. Farmers in all segments have expanded production to fulfill increasing demand while protecting our environment. The United States is currently producing 80% more pork, 48% more milk, 18% more beef than just 30 years ago. Now, you would think with all that increase in production, you would have more of an environmental problem. But despite the increases in production, per unit greenhouse gas emissions from pork production have decreased by 20% and 8% for beef production. Nonetheless, environmentalists still seem to place unwarranted blame on farmers for contributing to our changing and warming climate. The recent narrative that the United States agriculture is a major contributor to greenhouse gas emissions is simply not true. Now get that, it's simply not true. According to the EPA, only 11% of the U.S. greenhouse gas emissions come from agriculture. The leading sources of greenhouse gas emissions contribute nearly twice as many emissions as the agriculture industry does. Transportation contributes 27%. Electricity contributes 25%. General industry is contributing 24%. So I'm here to set the record straight. For the last 30 years, American farmers have been reducing greenhouse gas emissions with each meal served by embracing efficiency and the adoption of new technologies. Agricultural needs to have a seat at the table for these conversations because farmers are the first conservationists and can help offset emissions from other sectors of the American economy. Whether it's creating carbon sinks on farmland to produce biofuels or turning farm waste into energy, farmers have taken a very active role in reducing the environmental impact of agriculture. Research from the U.S. Department of Agriculture shows that even if the entire world was vegan, it would lower global emissions by less than 0.5% while losing access to high-quality protein very much needed in the diets of human beings. However, the facts I've mentioned do not matter to radical environmental groups or the mainstream media. Articles on food sustainability often focus on how eating insects and bugs can help save the planet. A simple search on the internet reveals some